The courtroom shook as the judge's gavel struck, echoing like thunder. Ethan Hale whispered to himself, "It cannot be real." Clara Morris leaned closer, murmuring, "Stay calm, it will be okay," though her eyes carried a hidden tremor. Daniel Reed clenched his fists under the table, silently memorizing every detail. Victor Blackwood sat poised, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Mwah." Lily Carter, restless in the gallery, whispered, "This isn't the truth." Ethan's chest tightened, survivor's guilt rising like a wave. A haunting presence of Emily Ward lingered, unseen yet felt. Every heartbeat thudded louder, stretching time into eternity. A phone rang in the hallway, shattering the silence. Ethan jolted, his body tense. Clara whispered again, "You must breathe," while pressing her hand firmly over his trembling fingers. Victor raised his eyes, calm and unshaken, orchestrating silently. Lily muttered under her breath, "Everything they hide will come crashing down." The echo of the verdict lingered in the air, twisting every soul in the chamber. Ethan Hale stared at the verdict sheet, each word burning into his mind. He muttered, "They have sealed my fate." Clara Morris whispered, "Not all is lost." Lily Carter smirked, saying, "Truth doesn't vanish with ink." Daniel Reed shifted, his face shadowed by old guilt. Victor Blackwood remained still, eyes cold. Silence grew heavy across the room. Ethan caught a faint trace of Emily Ward, a presence that should not exist, carried in scent and memory. Clara Morris said softly, "You must endure this moment." Ethan Hale shook his head, whispering, "I already endured too much." Lily Carter whispered, "They'll see what I know." Daniel Reed exhaled deeply, gaze fixed downward. Victor Blackwood smirked faintly, his calm like armor. In Ethan's mind, the faint hum of Emily Ward echoed, twisting silence into unbearable weight. The gavel's echo replayed endlessly in Ethan Hale's ears. He whispered, "Why am I still standing while they are gone?" Clara Morris touched his arm and said, "Because you must carry them." Lily Carter muttered, "Carrying lies is not survival." Daniel Reed pressed his lips together, fighting an old battle. Victor Blackwood raised a brow, silence sharper than words. Faint melody of Emily Ward rose in Ethan's thoughts. Ethan Hale whispered, "The truth will destroy us all." Clara Morris said, "The truth saves no one without sacrifice." Lily Carter muttered, "Then let it burn." Daniel Reed closed his eyes, burdened with hidden guilt. Victor Blackwood smiled faintly, as if each word confirmed his plan. The presence of Emily Ward hovered unseen, tethered to unspoken sorrow that thickened the air. Ethan Hale sat in the dim waiting chamber, his back pressed to a cold wall, as the pale light through blinds painted stripes across his tired face. Ethan whispered, "I lived, but every breath feels borrowed." Clara Morris stepped softly into the room, her heels clicking faintly on the floor. Clara placed her hand on Ethan's shoulder and said, "Survival is not betrayal, Ethan. It is strength." Ethan shook his head and muttered, "It feels like I stole a life that wasn't mine." Clara lowered her gaze, the warmth in her voice trembling. Daniel Reed paused at the doorway, his shadow stretching into the room, his eyes silently observing. Lily Carter leaned against the frame, restless and defiant, saying, "He doesn't need comfort, Clara. He needs truth." Clara's tone hardened. "Lily, you don't understand what he carries." Lily crossed her arms, glare unyielding, replying, "Pain doesn't wait for permission." Victor Blackwood stood further in the background, his composure cold, his faint smile unreadable. The unseen memory of Emily Ward drifted through Ethan's mind like a fragrance, haunting and inescapable, as silence pulled the room taut. The cafeteria buzzed faintly with distant voices, but Ethan Hale and Clara Morris sat tucked in a dim corner, shadows thick under flickering fluorescent lights. Clara leaned in, whispering, "You are not alone in this." Ethan rubbed his temples and said, "Every night I hear them scream, Clara, and I wonder why it wasn't me." Clara's eyes softened with sorrow, though her hand curled slightly into a fist beneath the table. Lily Carter dropped her bag onto a chair, her voice sharp, "He doesn't need your pity, he needs answers." Clara's jaw tightened as she replied, "You're too young to understand the weight of silence." Lily snapped back, "Pain doesn't check birthdays, Clara." Daniel Reed approached with quiet steps, placing a coffee before Ethan, saying, "Drink? You'll need it." Victor Blackwood passed silently through the aisle, his faint nod commanding attention without a word. Ethan closed his eyes, whispering, "Every path leads back to that night, and I cannot escape it." Clara touched his hand again, steady yet fragile, her words echoing as chains Ethan could not break. Outside the courthouse, dusk settled with a heavy orange glow, as Ethan Hale leaned against the cracked brick wall, shoulders slumped. Lily Carter stood before him, her voice sharp, "You hide behind silence, Ethan." Ethan shook his head, whispering, "Some truths kill when they surface." Lily's eyes hardened as she said, "I've already lived with death, so don't lecture me." Clara Morris emerged, her tone calm but firm. "Lily, leave him some peace." Lily snapped, "Peace is poison when it hides lies." Clara's jaw tightened, replying, "I protect because I must, not because I want to." Daniel Reed stepped quietly into the circle, his voice even, arguing changes nothing about what happened. Ethan closed his eyes, whispering, "But guilt doesn't fade, Daniel, it festers." Victor Blackwood appeared at the top of the steps, his voice smooth, "Guilt reshapes everyone who holds it." Ethan looked up trembling and said, "You know too well how to twist truth into chains." The faint echo of Emily Ward's laughter brushed past Ethan's ears, hauntingly familiar, bending silence into torment. Daniel Reed drove the sedan slowly through a misty night street, headlights cutting pale beams through drifting fog. Ethan Hale sat silent in the passenger seat, forehead resting against cold glass. Ethan whispered, "I remember fire, smoke, and voices I never saved." Daniel gripped the wheel tighter and said, "You survived because fate left you no choice." Ethan turned, his voice breaking, "And what did that survival cost me, Daniel?" Daniel clenched his jaw, silence betraying his thoughts. Ethan pressed his hand to his chest, whispering, "I'm still there every night." The reflection in the window flickered. Victor Blackwood's calm smile appeared faintly in the glass, watching with quiet menace. Clara Morris's earlier words haunted Ethan, replaying in his head like a broken echo. Lily Carter's sharp tone replayed too, cutting through his guilt. Then, Emily Ward's image shimmered briefly in the reflection, her youthful face unchanging. Ethan whispered again, "I cannot leave that night behind." Daniel finally muttered, "Then maybe it's time to stop running," his voice heavy with an unspoken weight. Victor Blackwood stood in his office, polished oak shelves lined with books and faint lamplight painting gold across his face. Clara Morris entered, arms folded, her tone sharp, "You knew all along." Victor smiled faintly and said, "Knowledge is not guilt, Clara, it is power." Clara's eyes narrowed, her voice cutting in silence. "Victor, what do you call that?" Victor stepped closer, voice low. "Silence is trust until someone shatters it." Ethan Hale appeared at the doorway, his voice shaking. "Every word you twist binds me tighter." Lily Carter leaned against the wall, smirking bitterly. "Hell never give you truth without a price." Daniel Reed entered last, jaw tight, muttering, "Then maybe it's time we pay it." The faint scent of lavender brushed through the room, a ghostly reminder of Emily Ward's presence. Victor's faint smile deepened as his shadows stretched across them all, the weight of his silence heavier than words. The evidence room reeked of dust and damp air as Ethan Hale ran his fingers across a stack of sealed boxes. He whispered, "It was here once, and now it's gone." Clara Morris entered behind him, voice tense. "Evidence disappears when someone wants truth buried." Ethan turned sharply and said, "Then someone is still pulling the strings." Daniel Reed stepped forward, his hand steady on the file shelf, murmuring, "Or perhaps it was never meant to stay." Lily Carter paced restlessly, eyes darting between boxes, muttering, "I saw what was inside, and they can't erase me." Victor Blackwood appeared in the doorway, his calm voice echoing, "You all put too much faith in paper and ink." Ethan clenched his jaw, whispering, "What I lost cannot vanish this easily." The faint image of Emily Ward crossed Ethan's mind as though her laughter was sealed in the missing files. The room tightened with dread as the shadows of betrayal grew heavier. Clara Morris slammed a folder onto the table in frustration. Clara shouted, "It was right here this morning." Ethan Hale whispered, "Then someone is inside with us." Daniel Reed's voice cut in coldly, "Or one of us already knew it was gone." Lily Carter narrowed her eyes, muttering, "Secrets always cost too much, and none of you will admit it." Victor Blackwood leaned casually against the wall, his smile deliberate, saying, "You confuse control with betrayal, but they are the same." Ethan's hands trembled as he spoke. "Every time the truth is close, it slips away like her shadow." Clara pressed her palm to the table, whispering, "We cannot stop now, not when the pieces are bleeding together." The faint echo of Emily Ward hummed in Ethan's ears, pulling him closer to the abyss of memory. The silence was pierced by the weight of suspicion, everyone's eyes sharp with mistrust. The night rain pounded against the courthouse steps as Ethan Hale stumbled into the storm. Ethan cried out, "Why does truth keep drowning me?" Clara Morris followed, clutching her coat tightly, whispering, "Because it was never meant to be uncovered without blood." Lily Carter shouted over the storm, "Blood already stains everything." Daniel Reed's voice was steady but sharp, "And you're willing to burn us all for scraps of the past?" Victor Blackwood stood in the rain's edge, unflinching, saying, "Past or future, both bend to those who endure silence." Ethan raised his face to the storm, whispering, "Emily's voice still follows me, even now." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but she stayed silent. The rain soaked them all, washing the courthouse steps like a grave, each character a shadow against the storm. The basement archive smelled of rust and mold, with flickering bulbs buzzing overhead. Ethan Hale opened a drawer and muttered, "These files don't belong here." Clara Morris leaned close, whispering, "Someone planted them to distract us." Lily Carter crouched beside the drawer, saying, "It doesn't distract me, it proves they're scared." Daniel Reed folded his arms, his tone flat, "Fear isn't proof, it's manipulation." Victor Blackwood stepped into the light, his voice measured, "Perhaps the proof you crave is only what I allow you to see." Ethan slammed the drawer shut and shouted, "Emily's truth deserves more than your games." Clara's hand touched Ethan's arm, her voice trembling, "Don't lose yourself here." The air grew heavy with betrayal, and every shadow seemed to whisper the name of Emily Ward. The alley behind the courthouse smelled of rain and smoke, steam rising from grates. Ethan Hale pressed his palms against the brick wall, whispering, "I cannot keep chasing ghosts." Clara Morris stepped beside him, saying softly, "Ghosts chase you because you carry them." Lily Carter appeared, her eyes burning, saying, "Emily's story isn't finished, Ethan, and neither is yours." Daniel Reed lit a cigarette, his voice low, "Some stories end because survival demands it." Victor Blackwood leaned against a lamppost, voice cold, "Or because I decide how truth survives." Ethan turned toward them all, whispering, "If Emily Ward's memory is all I have left, then I will not let it vanish." Silence fell heavy as the steam rose higher, each character caught in the web of shadows and truths. The witness chamber smelled of stale air as Ethan Hale opened the faded folder. He muttered, "This name, it was erased." Clara Morris leaned closer, whispering, "Why would they hide her past?" Ethan's voice cracked, "Because it shatters everything." Daniel Reed leaned against the wall, his tone heavy, "Truth buried in blood never rests." Lily Carter slammed her sketchbook shut, saying, "She wasn't who you thought she was." Ethan's breath faltered, whispering, "Emily Ward's life wasn't stolen, it was rewritten." Victor Blackwood's calm voice filled the silence, "Witnesses reinvent themselves when the truth is inconvenient." Clara shook her head, tears rising. No. She was more than a shadow. The air felt colder as the revelation clawed at Ethan's heart. The silence thickened until Emily's presence was almost palpable, as though her ghost waited for someone to finally say her true name. The courtroom archive flickered under weak bulbs as Ethan Hale spread old photographs across the table. Ethan whispered, "She lived another life before we knew her." Clara Morris picked up a photo, voice trembling. Emily Ward. She wasn't just taken, she chose something else. Daniel Reed muttered coldly. A hidden past means she walked away long before the end. Lily Carter's eyes filled with fire as she said, "No, she wanted to be found, and you were twisting it." Victor Blackwood smirked faintly. The past is whatever story we allow to survive. Ethan clutched a torn image, whispering, "She never left me, even if she left herself." Clara wiped a tear and whispered, "We never saw the whole truth, and maybe we weren't meant to." The haunting truth pressed closer, as if Emily's voice was trying to break through the silence of the room. The interrogation room buzzed with tension as Ethan Hale slammed his palm on the steel table. Ethan shouted, "Someone close betrayed us." Clara Morris tried to steady him, whispering, "Not everyone who hides is an enemy." Daniel Reed's eyes darkened as he muttered, "But betrayal lives closest to the heart." Lily Carter stood, fists clenched. "I told you trust breaks faster than glass." Victor Blackwood leaned back in his chair, his voice calm. "Betrayal is not the problem. It's the expectation of loyalty that poisons you." Ethan's voice cracked as he whispered, "Emily trusted the wrong person." Clara's face paled, realization cutting deeper than words. The air was suffocating, every breath drawn sharp with fear. The ghost of Emily Ward seemed to hang in the room, like a silent accuser, demanding truth no one dared to speak. In the courthouse corridor, echoes of footsteps bounced as Ethan Hale stopped dead in his tracks. Ethan whispered, "She was blood, not just memory." Clara Morris gasped, clutching her chest. Emily Ward. She was family. Daniel Reed closed his eyes tightly, whispering, "That connection was buried for a reason." Lily Carter stared in shock. "You mean all this time? She wasn't lost. She was hidden inside your own past." Victor Blackwood's voice was calm, sharp. "Blood ties make the cleanest chains." Ethan's hands shook violently, whispering, "Every moment was a lie I never saw." Clara stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Ethan, the truth won't heal you, but it will free you." Emily's presence seemed to grow stronger, her face flickering in the shadows of the corridor, demanding recognition. The library's silence was heavy, as Ethan Hale opened the sealed letter he had carried for years. Ethan whispered, "It was always hers." Clara Morris leaned close, whispering, "What does it say?" Ethan's voice cracked. "She knew I survived, and wanted me to carry the truth." Daniel Reed stepped forward, muttering, "So Emily Ward chose silence to protect you." Lily Carter whispered fiercely, "No, she chose silence to cage you." Victor Blackwood stepped from the shadows, calm and certain. "She chose silence because I gave her no choice." Ethan's eyes filled with tears, whispering, "She was my sister, my ghost, my wound." Clara's hand pressed over his, voice shaking, "Ethan, the truth is finally in your hands." Emily's presence seemed to stand directly before them, her faint smile flickering in the dim light, both comfort and curse. The courtroom erupted as Ethan Hale stood, voice trembling but defiant. "I demand the truth be spoken now." Clara Morris rose beside him, whispering fiercely, "This is the moment we can't take back." Daniel Reed stared at Ethan, his voice low. "Are you prepared for the cost of tearing it open here?" Lily Carter slammed her palms against the rail, shouting, "Stop circling shadows. Ethan, call it what it is." Victor Blackwood stood calmly, his faint smirk deliberate. "Truth is not demanded, it is permitted, and only by those who control it." Ethan's fists tightened, his voice breaking. "Emily Ward trusted me to carry her truth, and I won't let silence bury her again." Clara gripped his arm, whispering, "Hold steady, Ethan, or you'll lose more than justice." The judge's gavel struck sharply, silencing the uproar. In that silence, Ethan's words carried heavier than any verdict. The hallway outside the chamber was filled with echoing footsteps. Ethan Hale leaned against the wall, whispering, "Every word feels like a blade in my chest." Clara Morris stood in front of him, hands gripping his arms, saying, "Blades carve truth as much as they wound." Daniel Reed stepped close, his tone sharp. "If you press further, Ethan, you may lose what little remains of you." Lily Carter's voice rang out, "He's already lost enough, Daniel. Now is your turn to bleed for once. Victor Blackwood entered smoothly, calm voice chilling. None of you understand. This fight isn't for truth. It's for who controls the memory. Ethan raised his head, whispering, Emily Ward is more than memory. She's the chain that binds us all. Clara's eyes watered as she whispered, and if we break that chain, Ethan, we may all fall apart with it. The rain-soaked steps of the courthouse glistened as Ethan Hale shouted into the night, No more silence, I will name every truth. Clara Morris pulled at his arm, whispering, Ethan, you will destroy yourself. Daniel Reed raised his voice, You are unraveling, and you don't see who benefits from it. Lily Carter stood defiantly at Ethan's side, shouting, For once, Daniel, let someone burn if it means light. Victor Blackwood stepped down the stairs with eerie calm, saying, Names mean nothing if no one believes them, Ethan. Ethan turned, his voice breaking, Then let them believe my scars, because Emily Ward's story will not end in shadows. Clara shook her head in despair, whispering, You are choosing fire over survival. Ethan whispered back, Survival without truth is another form of death. Inside the chamber again, Ethan Hale stood trembling as the sealed letter lay open before the court. Ethan whispered, She named him Victor Blackwood. Clara Morris gasped aloud, covering her mouth, whispering, It was you all along. Daniel Reed's face twisted, muttering, I should have seen it years ago. Lily Carter shouted fiercely, You buried her truth because it threatened your power. Victor Blackwood straightened his suit, calm and poised, saying, Emily Ward made her choices. I simply ensured they remained forgotten. Ethan's tears fell onto the letter as he said, You silenced her voice, but you will not silence mine. Clara clutched his arm, whispering, This is the storm breaking. Victor smirked faintly, replying, And storms pass, leaving nothing but ruin. The courtroom fell into heavy silence, as the air itself seemed to shatter with the revelation. The final confrontation burned as Ethan Hale stepped toward Victor Blackwood. Ethan shouted, You shaped my scars, you stole Emily Ward's life. Victor raised his chin, replying calmly, I only shaped silence. You chose to live in it. Clara Morris stepped between them, whispering, Ethan, do not let anger end what truth has already revealed. Daniel Reed's voice thundered, Enough of games, this ends tonight. Lily Carter shouted, No more chains, Victor. Your silence dies here. Victor's calm broke into a faint sneer, saying, You can shout all you want, but history remembers what I allow. Ethan raised the letter high, tears streaking his face, whispering, Then let history remember Emily Ward, not you. Clara clutched her chest, whispering, The truth has been spoken. The silence after his words struck like thunder, a silence no power could erase. The judge's gavel fell for the final time, the sound slicing through the courtroom. Ethan Hale whispered, Justice feels like ash in my mouth. Clara Morris leaned toward him, her voice soft, It was never meant to taste sweet. Daniel Reed folded his arms, eyes heavy, saying, Verdicts don't heal wounds, Ethan. They only close chapters. Lily Carter slammed her notebook shut, her glare fierce. This verdict is a cage, not freedom. Victor Blackwood straightened his jacket, speaking calmly, Justice is only what survives history, not what you wish it to be. Ethan's fists tightened on the table, his voice breaking. Emily Ward deserved more than this twisted ending. Clara placed her hand on his, whispering, She lives in the truth you finally spoke. The silence grew unbearable as the court adjourned, each character walking out bound by shadows the verdict could not erase. In the empty courthouse corridor, Ethan Hale leaned against the marble wall, whispering, Why does justice feel like another prison? Clara Morris stood in front of him, whispering, Because justice bends, Ethan, it rarely breaks cleanly. Daniel Reed stepped close, muttering, The system isn't designed for healing, only for survival. Lily Carter kicked the baseboard hard, shouting, Survival without freedom is a curse. Victor Blackwood emerged from the shadows, calm and unshaken. Freedom is only what I choose to grant. Ethan glared at him, voice low, Emily Ward's name will outlive your silence, Victor. Clara's eyes softened with pride as she whispered, And that is what matters most. The corridor lights buzzed faintly, the air thick with the weight of truths spoken and denied. Outside the courthouse, heavy rain poured as Ethan Hale lifted his face to the storm, whispering, "Emily, I spoke your truth." Clara Morris clutched his arm, saying, "Then she is free, Ethan, even if we are not." Daniel Reed adjusted his coat, muttering, "Freedom is fragile. Don't mistake it for victory." Lily Carter shouted through the rain, "Her name is alive again. That's more than victory, Daniel." Victor Blackwood remained under the shelter, perfectly dry, his voice calm. Names fade, storms pass, and silence remains eternal. Ethan stepped into the downpour, whispering, "Then let silence drown with me, but not with her." Clara's eyes filled with tears, her hand gripping his tighter. The rain beat down like a drum, echoing the weight of the night's broken truths. In the quiet aftermath, Ethan Hale sat in Clara Morris' dim living room, whispering, "I don't know if I won anything." Clara placed a blanket on his shoulders, saying, "You won the truth. And sometimes that's all we can hold." Daniel Reed sat across the room, his voice heavy, "Truth doesn't mend, Ethan, it just stops the bleeding." Lily Carter leaned against the wall, sketching furiously, muttering, "It's still proof she mattered, and that's what none of you gave her before." Victor Blackwood remained standing, arms crossed, speaking calmly. "Truth is a blade, it cuts as much as it frees." Ethan whispered, "If pain is the cost, I'll carry it for Emily." Clara touched his hand softly, whispering, "Then you are already stronger than silence." The room was quiet, shadows long, as Emily's presence seemed to hum faintly in the air. The night grew still, as Ethan Hale stepped outside alone, the stars faint through shifting clouds. He whispered, "Emily, I carried your truth, but I cannot carry your peace." Clara Morris appeared in the doorway, whispering, "Then let peace carry you, Ethan." Daniel Reed's voice carried faintly behind her, "The world doesn't remember peace, only what scars remain." Lily Carter called out softly, "But scars prove we lived, not that we broke." Victor Blackwood's silhouette lingered in the shadows, his calm voice low, "Scars are mine to rewrite, not yours." Ethan turned back once, whispering, "Not this one, Victor. Emily's truth is untouchable now." The wind carried the faint echo of Emily Ward's laughter, haunting yet freeing. For the first time, Ethan's lips curved into a fragile smile under the stars. The courthouse stood empty, the echoes of the verdict fading into silence. Ethan Hale whispered, "We survived the truth, but it feels hollow." Clara Morris stepped beside him, her voice low. "Hollow is better than silence, Ethan." Daniel Reed adjusted his tie with a heavy sigh, saying, "Hollow or not, the truth is out, and that is the only victory." Lily Carter leaned against the railing, sketchbook clutched to her chest, whispering, "Victory doesn't erase scars." Victor Blackwood stood near the exit, his voice calm, "Scars define the story more than wounds ever will." Ethan shook his head, whispering, "Emily Ward was more than a scar, she was the reason I endured." Clara pressed her hand against his shoulder, whispering, "Then she remains alive every time you speak her name." The silence deepened, heavy and eternal. The night air outside the courthouse was heavy with fog. Ethan Hale whispered, "I feel her more tonight than ever before." Clara Morris wrapped her coat tighter, whispering, "She never left you, Ethan, she was always here." Daniel Reed exhaled sharply, his words bitter, "Memory isn't presence, it's chains we forge for ourselves." Lily Carter looked up at the fog-draped sky, saying, "Sometimes chains keep us standing when nothing else does." Victor Blackwood's voice was measured, "And sometimes chains keep us kneeling." Ethan lifted his eyes, whispering, "Emily Ward is no chain, she is the light that still finds me in this darkness." Clara's gaze softened, whispering, "And that is why you still endure." The fog curled around them like an unseen witness, carrying Emily's presence through the silence. In the quiet cemetery, Ethan Hale knelt before Emily Ward's headstone. Ethan whispered, "I carried you as I promised, but I could not save you." Clara Morris placed a small flower, whispering, "She is free because you spoke her truth." Daniel Reed stood back, voice heavy, "Graves never heal, they only remind." Lily Carter's eyes burned as she muttered, Reminders matter more than silence. Victor Blackwood lingered at the gate, calm voice carrying, "Reminders are fragile, they vanish with time." Ethan pressed his forehead against the stone, whispering, "Not this one, not her." Clara's hand rested on his back, whispering, "You made sure she will never vanish." The wind carried faint laughter, as though Emily's voice touched the night one last time. The abandoned house creaked under the weight of silence as Ethan Hale entered the room where memories once lived. Ethan whispered, "Every wall still breathes her name." Clara Morris stood by the broken window, whispering, "Places hold what people forget." Daniel Reed touched the cracked wallpaper, muttering, "And they remind us of wounds we refuse to close." Lily Carter traced her fingers across the dust, whispering, "These walls watched more than we ever will." Victor Blackwood stepped slowly into the center, calm and cold, saying, "Walls don't remember, they only reflect our obsessions." Ethan lowered his head, whispering, "Emily Ward is more than obsession. She is the truth I finally gave voice." Clara's eyes filled with tears as silence swallowed the house again. On the rooftop under a starless sky, Ethan Hale stood at the edge, whispering, "Emily, your silence echoes louder than any words." Clara Morris reached for him, whispering, "Don't let her ghost take you too." Daniel Reed's voice cut through the night, "You are alive, Ethan, and you must live with it." Lily Carter shouted, "Her truth saved you, not destroyed you." Victor Blackwood stood back, voice cold, "Saved or destroyed, it ends the same, in silence." Ethan turned toward them, his face pale but steady, whispering, "Then let silence echo with her name forever, Emily Ward." The wind carried his voice into the night, leaving a haunting resonance. Clara wept softly, whispering, "Her name will never fade now." The rooftop fell quiet, the haunting truth eternal.